In today's show, we discuss what is happening to Western men's testosterone levels.
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasulo and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Tayo Boya. Tayo, hello my friend, I hope you're keeping safe and well.
Yeah, what the hell, Tony? What you gonna do, eh?
You're brighter and cheerier than the last time we recorded a show, because you had a bit of a bad eye, if I recall.
Yes.
Has that all been sorted now? You're okay?
Mostly been sorted. In fact, I forgot to put my eye drops in this evening, so
Okay,
I'll
what
do
did
it
the
when
doctor say then? Is there anything, did you bash yourself or?
No, I think it's just something got into my eye, or some kind of, as he described, a minor eye infection, and so.
It wasn't anything slightly
No,
dubious, like your
it's-
wife punching you because she got fed up.
No, she didn't punch me. I don't think you don't just get a bloodshot eye. You also
No, you get
dark circles. So
Yeah.
it wasn't that. It wasn't that. It was something from I don't know what.
Okay, indeed. I mean, those of you obviously listening in here obviously couldn't see Tayo's eye last time we were here. It was really quite angry looking, very, very red. He was
I looked like a
auditioning for the
Terminator
devil.
one eye, didn't I?
Yeah, Terminator or auditioning for the devil or something. At least you look much better now, my friend. So well
Thank
done.
you.
mate.
Thank you
Cool,
very much. Thanks
cool.
for saying that. Yeah.
Anyway,
Hmm.
I've got to ask you, are we going to actually ask you to say hi to our audience? Am I risking that? Am I risking that?
Well, it's up to you, really.
Oh, go on then. Look, I don't know whether I should, but I'm going to now. Say hi to our audience.
Hello, audience. By the way, audience,
Oh,
and Tony can answer this for you. How do most men find out? How do most married men find out that their wives are dead?
I don't know if I want to answer this. I have no idea, and I don't know if I should ask.
You have to ask.
Oh, go on then.
The sex is the same, but the dishes start piling up.
Oh, that is so bad. That is so
Possibly due to a loss in testosterone. Yeah, I tied it in.
very good.
There
Very
you go,
good.
Tony. You've got. You can go off on your topic now.
Yes, Tyler's jumped the gun here. We're actually, in today's show, it's an interesting one actually, because you've come up with this topic, is what is happening to Western men's testosterone? Now, do you want to, as you started off, please elaborate. What is the problem with
Yeah, I was on a
Western
train.
men's
I was on a
testosterone?
train some time ago, and speaking to a stranger, which is quite unusual. It didn't really strike up a chat. Actually, I think it started on the platform in Portsmouth, and we were coming up. I was coming back to Northampton. He was going up to London. And so I don't know what got us talking. He turned out to be like a brain surgeon or something. I mean,
Oh, wow.
not like a brain. He was a brain surgeon.
Okay.
And we started talking about this, that, and the other, and how life is and everything. And I don't know how we got into the topic of boys and men and the gender thing. And he just sort of casually said, "Well, of course, that for the past few decades, men have been losing the testosterone level in men has been dropping." And he just said it very casual, like, "Yeah, of course, And I was like, "Hang on, that's quite a big deal. What do you mean the testosterone levels have been dropping? What is responsible?" I think I said something like, "Is there something in the water?" I think that's what started out. That when I left the UK, I went back to Nigeria for a spell. I left in the 80s. I didn't return to the UK in a major way until 2000, until the 2000s. And the change that I saw in the people and everything, I couldn't believe it was England, And I was like, "What happened to the men? What is there something in the water?" And
You
he said,
actually
"Well,
raised that question.
I
when you
actually
came
raised,
back.
it was a serious question. And I think, is there something, should I be drinking the water, man? What's going on?" And he was like, "Oh, yeah, it's like all over in the Western world." And so that's what I sort of put it on the back burner or something, but in thinking about topics of this show, that raised its head again when I came across an article that was discussing, the possible reasons, and I'll reveal. I think it's the one that academics and some doctors, the medical people, accept as being one of the major factors. But I'll relieve it. I'll reveal it now. It's not a biggie, and apparently it's something to do with obesity.
Yes.
So with the rising obesity levels amongst the men, there's been a corresponding drop in testosterone levels. But I wonder about that because some of the heftiest, beefiest men in the world are the South Pacific Islanders, and they've got moves and everything, but they're still pretty fearsome on the rugby field. You don't want to run into one of those guys. So there's plenty of testosterone to run around. You're not even talking about the New Zealand Maori, with their hacker, that kind of thing. They seem to have plenty of testosterone.
Well, that's just an observation, surely.
Yeah, well, it's anecdotal. I haven't done any sort of medical tests on that. But anyway, so I think the obesity thing, I don't know. Anyway, we're going to discuss it now, and we'll see what we come up with.
We are. There is an element of that for sure, because strangely enough, if you put on weight, your testosterone levels do drop, and because of the propensity of the Westerners to eat rich food and have less exercise, more and more men are having this issue where their testosterone is dropping because of their weight. And so unfortunately, when your testosterone drops, you actually struggle to lose weight. So it becomes a vicious circle that you then struggle to get out of, and you go downwards because the less testosterone you have, the less muscle mass you have, so the harder you struggle to shift the weight. So you do need to reverse that. And food and the sedentary lifestyle is predominantly to blame. That seems to be the fact, because although, as you rightly say, this is a factor, a lot of the tests and all the surveys have been US centric, although there have been some European ones as well, and they found the same correlation. But what is also interesting, you rightly said, the Maori people and the Polynesian people in the far east of the world who had no instances of heart disease, for instance, since they've now been consuming the Western diet for the last 15 years or so, predominantly that length, they too now are starting to get issues that the Westerners are experiencing. And that includes heart disease amongst dropping levels of testosterone. Although the surveys and the testing over there haven't been as thorough as in the States or in Europe, they are seeing a pattern there too. So that's a bit concerning. So what is it in the Western diet predominantly that is causing this drop in testosterone? What is it?
Well, I don't buy what you're saying at all.
Okay. So what's your take as to
first of
all,
I think you're talking about dropping levels of testosterone. And when I say the West, I mean the global West. Now, what's the global West? Primarily, the global West is the Anglo-Saxon world and its diaspora. So you're talking about this is Europe and the Anglo-Saxon diaspora. All right.
So you say white people?
Well, not really, because I'm saying Europe, okay, Western Europe.
Okay, which is predominantly white.
Yeah, but it's not the fact of the whiteness. That's not the thing. It's the political and social cultural situation that I'm talking about. So I'm talking about America, Canada, Australia. There's a certain there's a certain mentality, there's a certain togetherness, a certain being that we understand one another, right?
Okay.
As well as then the sort of the extended family of that, in a strange sort of way, the French and the Germans and that sort of thing. So from that point of view, it's like the old Europe, if you like, and its extension, right? But
Mhm.
you wouldn't call, say, the Spanish influenced Argentina, you're not going to call that the West.
Okay.
You understand what I mean? But you would call Canada and America, you call them the West.
Okay.
Okay, so
So it's your interpretation of the West in your eyes.
yeah, the interpretation of the West is the West and its very close allies, who may not even be Western. I mean, you don't think of South Korea as being
the West.
uh, the West, but they're very, very close to Western culture and Western this and that. They've accepted quite a lot of our ways and our means and everything.
Mhm.
And militarily and politically, they're very, very close to the West. So is
Okay.
Japan, right?
So did you class them as the West?
Our custom as what I call the global West. It's that global. It's the culture more than anything else. The fast foods, the
You mean
liberation of women.
are you saying
The
therefore it's first world nations?
Okay, is Russia not a first world nation?
Russia is a first world nation, yes.
What about China? Because China is not the West for sure.
No.
No. So
I don't know, but the thing is,
they don't do the fast food. They're not like us. There's something that there's just something that's just not us about them.
well, clearly they don't have fast food in the same degree that we do.
No, but they got their own kind of thing, haven't
They
they?
do, but
Yeah.
generally their own food.
And they don't have the same kind of attitudes that we have. But if a Westerner should
Attitude
be,
can't affect your testosterone
I'm not
level.
talking about testosterone. I haven't reached that. I haven't reached that point
Okay.
yet. I'm trying to define what is the global West.
Okay.
And the global West should be that you get dropped off somewhere, you'll be reasonably comfortable with the people there. Even, if I drop you off in Spain or in, I don't know, Hungary or whatever,
Yeah.
you should be reasonably comfortable with what's
Okay.
going on around you.
Right.
Right? As opposed to if I dropped you off in, I don't know, Liberia or Saudi Arabia, you wouldn't be less comfortable. Right?
Possibly.
Yeah, this is possible.
Possibly.
Yeah. Okay.
I've been to Egypt and felt completely comfortable, and been to the US and
Terrorist
felt
areas.
totally uncomfortable.
Well, US, of course. I
The
mean,
US. There
any
you go.
sensible human being would be very uncomfortable there. As you know, my attitude towards the Americans, that just means you're sensible, but you shouldn't have gone to the US at all, But anyway, let's not get sidetracked. Now, I think that Japan, South Korea, where else was I thinking about? Western Europe in the old days, before the fall of the Berlin Wall, right? That part of Europe, okay? America and China, America and Canada, and to a lesser extent, the Australians and the New Zealanders, which is interesting because it is to a lesser extent amongst them. They've all seen drops in testosterone, unlike the people the men in China and in the Arabia, what's it called? Yeah, the Arabian Peninsula and places like that, Africa, where it hasn't dropped at all.
It hasn't been measured.
Well, the little that I've seen is that it hasn't dropped at all. I don't think anybody's saying that. What do you mean it hasn't been measured? It has been measured.
Not to the same level.
Well, that's what I mean. Not to the same level, but to the level.
No. The measurements weren't as comprehensive as it has been in your words, the Western world. They are a program of doing it now because they want to see whether this correlation affects them too, to fully understand whether it is totally diet related, which they're suspecting that it is, but they haven't got the data as yet to prove that.
I'm saying that whatever small research, if you're going to call it small, that's still going to be a bit of a judgment call, but not maybe as comprehensive as the ones in the West. But there have been some, and the figures are that we are not seeing a similar decline in those people. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
Okay. So you could say, well, let's wait for more, a larger sample and all that. But that's just kicking the can down the road. What we've got right now here today and during this discussion is that this is the case.
Okay.
Right? Now, it then becomes, what's the reason?
Yeah.
If there is a dichotomy, or difference, dichotomy is not the word, there's a difference. There's a difference between the way the Western men, if there's a difference between Western men's testosterone levels and the rest of the world's men's testosterone levels, what could be the cause? Is it as simple as you're trying to make it out to be? Diet, right? Now, I don't think it is, but because I got my own ideas on it.
Please share.
Oh, my ideas are going to be quite radical.
Oh no!
And
based on what evidence? Because so far the evidence,
a correlation. Because I believe that you are correlating, and I don't have strong evidence. Okay, but I believe you're correlating obesity to loss of a drop in testosterone in the same way that you can correlate blood to car accidents. You're in a car accident, there's more blood. So you can say, well, does blood cause car accidents? Obviously not. Just the presence of the thing.
Terrible comparison. I'm sorry.
It might be. I had to think of it on the spur of the moment. But I think it adequately for people who are not maybe that, savvy with scientific ideas and so on, they can instantly see what I'm getting at. That just because you see more of something in this case doesn't necessarily mean that it's the cause, that it's causative, that obesity causes testosterone. It could be the lack of exercise, for instance, is one thing. That the more exercise, like historically, men were very vigorous. We did the hard labor, we did the fighting, we did the hunting, all these very vigorous exercises.
Yeah.
And what helps you in that is testosterone. Now we lead a more sedentary life. Then nature looks at it and goes, well, what do you need all this testosterone for? You don't really. Just to type on a keyboard, it's pretty easy. So nature responds, by lowering the testosterone, which is actually a good drug for you, by the way. I mean, to some, there's a certain level at which it's good, but beyond that, it's quite harmful.
Yes.
So your body is just like, well, thank goodness, you don't need that dangerous stuff. And it lowers it. And then you start putting on weight. And all of a sudden, we're saying it's the other way around, that it is the weight that leads to a loss of testosterone. And I'm like, all right, would you like to show me how that works? And that's what I'm talking about.
There is truth in that. There is truth in that. If you're even now, if you're overweight and you're of reasonable health, but you're overweight, and you've got a twin brother who isn't overweight, and you took a measurement of testosterone, by the fact of you being overweight, your testosterone will be lower than your brother who isn't overweight. So there is.
But why isn't he obese? Is it because he exercises more, which is what I'm talking about? That it is actually the exercise.
Just by simply overeating an extra mouthful than what your body needs.
It could be that.
That's exactly how it works. Not just the sedentary
because
stuff.
It's got to be the sedentary thing. If you have an extra mouthful and you get out there and you burn it off, you'll be fine.
How? Okay, let me tell you something about burning weight using exercise. Okay, this is my field of expertise. How if you put on a pound of fat, which is overeating by 3,500 calories, okay? You put on a pound of fat. How many grams of fat do you lose by walking or running a mile?
Suppose you're going to tell me not very much.
100 grams.
Well, you're changing
No,
grams
so
and
what I'm
pounds.
trying to
Don't
get you
worry.
to understand
So I don't
is
understand. How do you convert 1 pound to grams? I can't do the comparison because
okay,
I don't
okay.
know about
I've
pounds.
told you in calories, yeah? Okay. So one
How many
pound of fat,
grams does a calorie?
one
Does
pound of
three?
fat is 3,500 calories.
How
If you
many
walk,
grams is it?
let me explain. If you walk or run a mile, you'll lose 100 grams. It doesn't matter about the weight
It does
element.
matter because I don't understand what you're talking about. You're talking about apples and oranges, right? And I
Okay,
can't do the conversion.
a pound is about 500 grams.
Ah, there we go. Now I get it. So
Okay,
if you eat, if you eat if you ingest 500 grams worth of calories,
that's three and a
and you
half
walk a
thousand
mile,
calories. Yep,
right? And you walk a mile, you're
yep.
only going to burn off
A
100
hundred.
grams. So you're going to store 400 grams.
No, you're not.
Right?
You're losing 100 grams of that
500.
yeah, of that 500.
So you're
So
going to have 400 left on your body.
your calories, sorry, not grams. Oh, I got
Eh?
that wrong. When you walk a mile or run a mile, you only lose 100 calories, not grams.
Oh, wow.
Yes, that's it.
So you got
I've confused myself.
3,400 calories running around.
Yes. So
Right.
you'd have to run or walk 35 miles to lose a pound of fat. So exercise isn't what does it. Exercise is not how you lose weight.
Anecdotally, I challenge that.
No, that's actually
Anecdotally, I
correct.
challenge that. See, I went on one of my favorite times ever. I went on a cruise to Norway, to the fjords with my wife.
Okay.
I ate myself silly
Okay.
because,
What
look,
did you eat though?
everything.
Okay.
There was this midnight restaurant, and I was eating prawn salads and things, eggs, fried eggs and stuff at 2 a.m. Right? There was wine on tap. I mean, Tony, wine on tap. And then I discovered, I think there were pina coladas with pineapple, but they were just beautifully made with crushed ice and everything. I discovered that, and I was having like 10 or 11 or 12 of them, and it was just non-stop. It was like a 24 hour, I mean, sleep, I didn't want to sleep because I didn't want to not be eating or drinking or something, right? But all these restaurants and things, they were at opposite ends of the blooming ship. So I was walking back and forth and walking, and I this is the same watch. I don't know if the audience can see it. Can you see that?
Yeah, yeah.
This is the same watch I had on, and it's counting my steps. And I was hitting like 10,000 steps a day.
Okay.
Right? I got back on the scale. I had lost weight, Tony. I had actually lost weight after everything I'd eaten, after everything I'd drunk. So I'm not prepared to hear people tell me yada yada yada. When I put on weight, it's because I've not been moving. It's because I've been sedentary.
No, honestly, it does
It's
help
my
by
personal
moving.
experience. So I'm
It does
like,
help
yeah,
by moving.
no,
but
I'd
it's
lost
not your
weight.
way of
I
losing
came
weight.
back lighter than when I went. It was unbelievable.
I would be amazed at that.
Yeah, actually, my wife, if she was here, she's not, but if she was here, I could call her and say, look, come
Were
come
you
and
only
bear
drinking or were you
testimony.
eating?
Sorry, I
Were you
was
only
stuffing myself stupid.
Of what
Look,
though?
hamburgers, the look, everywhere was a buffet. Everywhere there was food. It was just eat, drink, non-stop. I mean, okay, I don't like potatoes and things like that, but I like everything else. And it just got to the point where you're just spoiled for choice. It's like, okay, let's go have a cupcake. Okay, let's go have some custard. Okay, like that.
And you
Let's
put
go have
no
some
weight on. I
sandwiches.
find that impossible.
I lost not just no weight on, not
You
just no
lost
weight
weight.
on. I lost weight.
Were you ill? Did you have diarrhea? Did you have something
You'd
like
have
that?
thought, but no, I didn't.
I
All I
find
had
that
was 10,000 steps per day,
that's
as
not
opposed to
enough.
my former 500 or 600 steps
Do
a
you
day.
know 10,000 steps? I've got it written down on my board here because I have to use it. 10,000 steps is approximately 3.5 miles. And you'd lose 350 grams per 10,000 steps.
That's what you tell yourself, but I'm the living proof that that's not the case. I'm the living proof that if you can do that consistently, like I did for 2 weeks, that yeah, you're gonna lose weight. The trouble is, hardly anybody does that. You eat what I was eating, drink what I was drinking, and you don't move like that. Like that. Which is why I'm fat in the first place. Because like I told you before all that, I was working like only 700, 800 steps a day, which is next to nothing.
Mm-hmm. But 10,000 steps is just an arbitrary figure. It's not based on any.
Oh no, I only said what my
data.
watch reported. I didn't try.
Okay.
I wasn't trying to hit 10,000
How
steps.
are
I
you
was
walking
just
10,000 steps?
because everything was on the other end of the ship. You know, a long ship like that, right? You want to go to the observation platform where there was this bar where the best barmen were there.
Yeah.
They knew how to mix every cocktail on the planet, right?
Did you drink plenty of water, by the way? Did you feel drinking water?
Well,
as well?
yeah, I used to actually carry a water bottle, a 1 liter water bottle, which I bought.
Did you know water?
Mhm.
If you eat a lot and you drink a healthy amount of water,
This is the same one I took on the cruise. I bought it for the cruise.
If you
1
drank
liter.
that, see, that's the thing that a lot of people miss out. You drink a lot of water, that actually helps flush out weight, which is really bizarre.
Helps flush out weight.
Yeah, it doesn't let the weight, the fat, for whatever reason, I don't understand why it happens, but it seems to work, that it helps flush out your system so it doesn't dwell. So it's just like the snow example. If you've got a lot of liquid in the snow will move quicker and escape the body. If you're not getting a lot of lubrication in your body, things don't flow easily and things start to clog up.
What did you call it? The snow? The what?
Snow. You know the snow and the slush? If it's wet, it will move. But if it's thick snow, it doesn't move very much.
Oh, right. I thought you said in your body or something else.
Yeah, I'm comparing the snow with body. You know, like snow, slow moving snow doesn't move very much. But if it's wet and damp, it will start to slide. And you're giving it a lot of liquid. So that.
Well, the other thing I didn't have, maybe very slightly when I went to a little corner bar where they only served, I think it was whiskey and gin. That's all they served. I don't know if they served brandy as well. So really hard liquor. And they had these various whiskeys and various gins, and I was going to try them. But after a few, shots, my body was telling me, dude, it was too much. And that one, I almost had a hangover. But when I stayed away from that, because that was like, that's too harsh, man, And I stayed with the lighter cocktails and things like that. I never had a hangover, not even once. I woke up, ready to go, raring to go again.
If you drink plenty of water, that is one way of avoiding hangovers.
Yeah, I think it was more the walking rather than just drinking of the water.
Well, honestly, the walking doesn't really play a part.
I think it does. And I think because that's what the testosterone thing is that we the more vigorous we are. I like when guys go into the gym and they're like, and they're pumping and everything. They build up the testosterone levels.
Yes, they do.
Some of them pop pills, but that's stupid. But the ones, because that's very dangerous, by the way. Yeah. And I don't want to be preachy or nannish, but guys, if you're listening, you really shouldn't be doing that. Seriously. Okay? There's a lot of literature out there that you're really killing yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people go and pump and everything. They just build up the testosterone naturally. Now, extend that to the rest of their life. That is not just going off in the 3 or 4 evenings a week, but it is what you do every single day. There's no way you're not going to have more testosterone, and you're not going to be and then you're not going to be obese, and then you're going to say, "Oh, look, he's not obese. He's got more testosterone." But it's the wrong way around. It's the other way. It is the lack of movement that leads to the loss of testosterone.
It's a factor for weight gain, weight loss. It's certainly a factor. We have become more sedentary generally.
Thank you. So that's where I'm coming from.
For health reasons, absolutely. More movement is important, but it's not for weight loss. It's for health benefits. So you saying moving around a lot will help you lose the weight, that's strictly not true. You do need, if you pump iron, however, it does lift your testosterone level, but because you're building muscle mass, muscle will consume more calories anyway. And being a man, regardless of testosterone levels dropping, a man does consume more calories than a female. And in your case, you're quite a tall, big man, so you need a lot of calories just to survive on a day to day. You may not need 2,500. You could be at the 3,000 level, and so there you go. If you're consuming alcohol and eating lots, you're probably getting to that amount, but you're moving around the ship, you're drinking plenty of water, you're almost offsetting it. Hence why you didn't gain weight, but I'm surprised you lost weight. But it
Yeah,
could be
that's
that it's
right.
better quality food than you have here. I don't know. That I don't know because I didn't follow you around to see what you
Well,
did eat.
yeah, there were no. Funnily enough, there were no chocolates and cakes. I didn't eat a
Oh,
lot of
interesting.
desserts. They
Here's a
were
question.
offered,
Here's a
but I didn't
question.
eat them.
How much sugary products were there, and how much did you partake? Because it's not
Oh
how
yeah.
much you eat, it's what you eat. And when food is processed that contains more sugar, because the processed food tends to have more sugar, because when food is processed, it loses its flavor, so they have to boost it with sugar. So if you're eating processed stuff as opposed to freshly prepared food made by chefs, the likelihood of you putting on weight is far, far less because your body can easily deal with the food, take the nutrients it needs, and the rest flush out. Processed food, the body struggles with, it struggles to break it down, and it uses a lot of energy to try and break it down. And it then gets tired and goes, oh, sod this. I'm going to just store it and wait and deal with it another time. And that's how you put on weight, by eating processed food. And because it contains more sugar than freshly made food, and it's just generally not good for you. A
Yeah,
good rule of
I think there
thumb,
was less. I didn't eat desserts. That's the funny thing. I
there
didn't
you
eat the
go.
ice
You
cream,
avoided
so
the
I didn't.
sugar then. You
Sorry?
avoided a lot of the sugar,
Yeah,
which was
because I
good.
was enjoying the other stuff. I mean, if you have
Yeah.
a whole plate of sushi and stuff like that, what are you
Oh, but
eating?
sushi's great for you. Doesn't matter if you eat
Or
lots
steak
of
or
it.
whatever,
Yeah, exactly.
whatever.
That's
So,
actually fine because that's freshly prepared and it's good food. Did you have salads with it?
yeah.
Yeah, there you go. You're eating actually quite healthily.
I was
You
eating
feel
nothing,
better,
but
even
I
though
was
you're eating a
eating
lot.
non-stop.
You're eating healthily, and in relation to what you would eat if you're eating processed food. Processed food is the problem because they have to add sugar, they have to add preservatives to give it a shelf life and to give it some flavor. And
You
it's
see, the pina
that.
coladas, though, would have been like, I don't know how many calories, because you can imagine what a pina colada is, with the pineapple juice and all the sugar and everything in it. And I
Yes,
was
that's
drinking, like I
true. But
said,
again,
goodness gracious me.
again, pineapple juice isn't as bad as something that you would buy off a shelf in a supermarket.
As bad as one of the, okay, I know what you mean. You don't want to mention you don't want to mention trade names then, I suppose, but
Indeed.
soft drinks, what
Yes.
we call the pop drinks.
Yeah. Pop
Do we call them
drinks.
that, or the Americans call them that? Pop
Soda.
drinks. Soda,
Soda.
yeah, what
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean. Anyway, with testosterone, I think one of them is sedentary lifestyle. That's me. That's my attitude.
Well, generally it's not good for you. So you're right in that respect, but it's
Okay.
not
And then the
for
second thing
losing
I
weight,
think
but it's
about
good for
is the
health.
cultural influence. I think that we have created, not we, but society is creating a generation of nannies, of ninnies, of weakling, of sissies, like that. With what is it? With the children have become almost the wards of the state, and the
What do you
state
mean by
says,
that?
well, when I was young, I was the ward, the responsibility of my parents, and the state had only a little to say about my upbringing. But today, it's like the state has the most to say about the upbringing of a child, and if you don't do what the state wants, they will come and take the child away from you.
Well, this is a different. This is you're diverging to a
No, no.
different
So I'm
area
saying
here.
that
How
because
does
of
this
that,
affect testosterone?
well, because the state, which in a gynocentric society, which is a society that is mostly dominated by female thought, is very nannyish. It's very mummyish. Remember that if you were playing roughly outside with, I suppose you had brothers or whatever or friends, you were playing roughly outside. Your mother's instinct was always stop doing that, come inside, sit down, let me keep my beady eyes on you, right? Your father's instinct was always, yeah, go rough and tumble, win or whatever it is you're doing. If you're playing football, how many goals did you score? If you're wrestling, did you throw the other guy down or did he throw you down? That's the father's instinct.
Okay.
The father's instinct is to help you to compete. The mother's instinct is to so-called protect you and coddle you. So I'm saying that our society now is the coddlish one, is the motherish one, is the nanny-ish one, and it doesn't let boys be boys. Remember the famous Gillette advert that sparked so much controversy? Well, if you have a whole bunch of boys who should be outside roughing and tumbling and doing all that, but they're inside, as we like to say when we're insulting each other on social media, they're inside the house in their mummy's basement, they're not going to grow up with any testosterone. What do they need testosterone for? Again, it's you got it wrong. The cause is the lifestyle that leads to the drop in testosterone. It's not the other way around. It's not testosterone that leads to a dip in activities or whatever.
Well,
so that's what I'm saying.
You're saying the lifestyle is affecting the people rather than the other way
Very
around.
much so. When you look at the world and you see more active young men, their testosterone is fine. That's my challenge.
But
That's to me
there is a level of activity relationship with testosterone. So you're right. If people do more sports, for instance, they will build up their testosterone. That's actually true. So you're right. If you're more sedentary, generally don't go out, you're playing on your Xbox or PlayStation, name them both.
Or can you even DIY, for instance, as a man? Do you actually know how to DIY?
Well, that's a lack of knowledge. It's not lack of testosterone.
Well, no, because you're not doing anything. You're not using your hands. There's no manual labor there.
The service industry now
it's so expensive,
available for everybody. So
the service industry is not. It's very expensive to call. I think one of the early episodes, I told you how in Nigeria, I had everybody, all my services were on my phone, right? Electrician, plumber, carpenter, everything, driver, mechanic, everything was on the phone. Just like, those bulbs have gone out. Oh, okay, someone comes around, fixes the bulb. I know how to fix the bulb, but why would I? Because the guy's going to buy the bulbs. He's going to come, he's going to fix them, take out the old one. He's just going to sort things out, right?
That's his job.
But in the UK, I certainly can't call in an electrician at, I don't know, £35 an hour, whatever it is, to come and change a light bulb for me. That'd be daft, right? But there are other things that I should be able to do, but I was never taught DIY by my dad. No, I'm not blaming him. Just we're living in Nigeria. We didn't need to know. So, things that I think my next door neighbors do. One guy I worked with, the manager when I was programming in London, he was replacing his blooming bathroom, from scratch. I mean, that's a real man, for goodness sakes, okay?
Just because he's doing that?
Yeah, just because he's doing that. He comes into the office and he's there with Excel spreadsheets and whatnot, but then he can go home and build a bathroom, which I can't.
Right, okay. That's an admiration there, because he's got both
skills.
Man.
This is what testosterone, this is when you get out there, you do things. This is what being a man is all about. Okay? He's not sitting there going,
well, that's not strictly true, because...
Well, that's what I think a man is. Because look, I tell you what. That's what I think a man is. Because I tell you what, if there's a crisis, if we and Russia, we go toe to toe, and there's a nuke, you don't want Tayo around. You want this man who can build freaking, bathrooms. That's what you need. You don't need me. I'm a great talker, but you don't need me in a crisis, pal. You need testosterone. That's what I'm talking about, right?
I'm not sure that that's actually true, because you'll find that
keep me around for comedic value, but
you'll be there as a motivator because you can talk, so you can motivate the troops to go out on the front line.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that, because one day, one of these troops that's going out just going to stop and go, wait a second. Why isn't he at the front line? And then I've had it, you see, people start asking awkward questions. Now, what do you can bring to the party, dude? So anyway,
I mean,
That's the other thing. And what's the third one that I was thinking about? We need no. So, and I like to say this: you say if I'm right, you can test my theory is testable, which is good. Okay,
go on.
you can
How?
look. Well, the testosterone in societies where there's a lot more physical activity, and compared to testosterone in our societies. That's number one. Number two, with I think that we're, like I said, we're highly, no, we, but the men here are highly feminized with all this lack of testosterone. And that explains for why there are so many girly looking boys around. They're not, you know, the Chinese cottoned onto this, by the way, recently. I don't know if you're aware of this. I think it was in the year 2022. So I do think it was early this year. If not, it was very, very late last year. No, maybe it was late last year when the Chinese began a campaign to stop the images of what they call the girly boys. Now, I don't know what that translates to in English, but it meant,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
it meant, the boys with the bangs and the sort of the Korean pop idol kind of look,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
the kind
Which
of
are
like
very
androgynous.
effeminate men.
Yeah, and they
being
were
boy
like, "No, man,
bands. Yeah.
Bruce Lee, be like that. No, not this." And they started banning these images from adverts and from and from film
As
and
a
television.
slight digression,
Well, I think it was because they're worried about.
yeah, of
Well, it
course,
is, but
but can I ask your view though? Because you're a proponent of free speech, free society. Do you feel there that we were just talking about it, that you said that the Western world is becoming more nanny state, where they're looking after the children? But in this scenario, isn't that an even more nanny state because they're deciding what they believe is best for their population?
that's a very good point, Tony. But since I side with them in this, I'm going to give them a free pass. You see, that's how it is. You know,
So you're cherry picking, and
I'm cherry picking. I'm
you're
cherry picking the
picking.
things that I think that whose quote was it? Oh, what's that lovely Latin phrase? Qui bono, isn't it? Is it qui bono? No, is it qui bono? Who benefits?
Oh,
Right?
is it
If
cui
you're trying to
bono? I don't
defend
know.
your society,
Yeah,
then what you're doing is fine. If you're trying to push an agenda, then what you're doing isn't fine.
yeah, but
So who benefits?
How do you? Because they could use that. I'm okay. We've digressed from our topic, but there is some
That's right.
link. They, in China's case, they
Mhm.
could say everything they're doing is for the benefit of their people.
That's
When
what
they
I think.
lock people down, oh, it's the benefit of the people.
They found out the hard way that they're wrong.
Yeah, they were wrong because they've
Hmm.
had to change all that. But
Mhm.
that's not the point. That made them look bad because honor and pride is very high in their culture.
Mm.
So that they discovered the hard way that isn't ideal, but they could use that all the time, couldn't
No,
they?
they do, and it's
Okay,
wrong.
okay.
Okay,
But
so
in
it's
this
wrong.
instance, you're happy with it.
Well, in this instance, I'm perfectly happy because they're defending themselves and their culture.
But if
But
you give if you give them
when we
that,
do it here, what are we doing it for? Are we defending ourselves and our culture, or are we extending the power of the state, which is what I genuinely believe it's about? It's not about
for
helping
what
anyone.
for
It's
what
about
benefit?
dominating people,
Why
and
is
that's
it
different.
dominating? I don't get it.
Sorry.
Why do
Well,
you
who's
think it's
dominating are
dominating?
the people who are writing the agenda, the people who tell us they make they corral most of us. I mean, some of us refuse to be corralled, but they corral most of us, and then they start chopping away and cutting off all our free speech, all our rights, all our human rights, and they start telling you what you must do rather than what you should do. You know, it's like the Chinese are saying, don't put these people's images on in advertisements
Yeah,
or on
you
TV.
mustn't
They're
do.
not telling you
They
that you
are.
have to do this and you have to do that. That's an example. But when we tell you that you must address an obvious man as madam because he says so, what are we talking about there? What's going on there? That's not that is turning me and my mouth into the instrument of the state. I don't have a say anymore in how I in how I speak or how I think. You're telling me what to say. That's
Yeah.
going very.
I'm actually agreeing with you in this
Yeah.
instance. I'm agreeing with you
That's so.
because
If it was to defend the state, I'd be with them. But it's not. It's to extend political power.
I think, okay, you've moved it over a bit in terms of this particular topic about the level of
Testosterone.
acceptance.
Yeah?
I know there's a level of acceptance of under, what's the word I'm looking at, minority groups, and the idea is the government is trying to get the population to accept minority groups, and I'm classing everybody in a minority group. That we're not going to name them individually, but you know what I mean. But when those when that's one level, which is fine. You want to not persecute anybody, but when you're now thrusting this minority group on everyone else, when they're still a minority group, you just don't want to persecute them. Let them get on with what they want to do, live their lives in peace, period. That's fine. Most people are happy with that. But when that starts to leak out into all other areas, then you have to sort of ask the question, what is government doing here? Are you now curtailing the majority for a minority? And you have to always balance this. I'm not saying there's an easy answer, but clearly they've switched too far one way or another. And you're right, but I don't see the correlation with that with the testosterone. I think the two are separate.
Well, young men today, according to evolvetelemed.com, evolve tele, like ordinary television, and then med, like medical, evolvetelemed.com, testosterone. According to them, it says young men today in studies conducted have a lower chance of holding jobs in manual labor positions. They just can't cut it.
Well, that's because when testosterone gets too low anyway, and I don't think society plays a part, it does if they choose not to be active. Activity is...
well, you're told to come in and sit down.
That's because...
You grow up without a parent. You don't even grow up... the majority of young men today grow up in single-parent homes where the mother...
not true. That figure's not true. It's not majority. It's a significant number, but it's not a majority.
Well, I'm not going to argue because I'm going to accept significant things.
Significant number, but not majority.
But it's in the upper 90 percentiles of young men in prison were brought up in a single-parent home. That's the one I'm not going to...
That is probably correct, yes.
Thank you. And 1% were brought up by a single-parent father. 1%. Right.
That's because statistically, the majority of single parents are mothers, because the fathers
also because fathers lay down the law.
Allowed, yes, they're not allowed to have the children. So,
yeah, but when they do, they lay down the law. We don't let things get out of hand. Can't talk back to your dad. I'm sure in your life it was the same thing.
Indeed. Indeed.
You know,
that again, is that to do with testosterone?
Yes,
or is that to do with
because
culture?
A man who has grown up with the benefits of a strong male figure in his life is likely to be... I'm creating this now. And it's not something that I read, but it's more likely to be...
Do you know why this is? It's because their men are more happy to put boundaries, and the boundaries are there because when children are growing up, they need boundaries. They feel that they are... because if a child has got no boundaries at all, they go off the rails because they're not equipped to deal with it. So children need these boundaries. Now, granted, you don't want the boundaries to be so tight that they have no flexibility, but you still want to give them some flexibility, but you still want boundaries. So that way they can be themselves, but know, I can't cross this line. That's the line that my parents have put in place for me, for my safety, my well-being. I'm not going to cross that because I know the repercussions will be worse. So we need these boundaries. It's the way that we function strangely. And if you look at in adult society, those boundaries become laws. And in adulthood, we follow laws because it's for the conducive for a good society. So boundaries are actually a good thing in life, as long as they're not too narrow that curtail any sort of wiggle room that we want to
But when I
have.
was saying earlier that the state, that children have become the ward of the state, you can't even discipline your children
I know.
nowadays the way that we could because the state says you shouldn't.
Yes, which is
But the state is
encroachment,
also
and I
isn't there
disagree
to
with this.
impose the boundaries that you're talking about.
Well, that's because the state, well,
They use drugs.
sometimes,
What do they call it?
do you know why? Because they are trying to put some boundaries in that some parents are not putting in any at all. So they've put some boundaries, but their boundaries are incorrect because you've now taken them away from the majority of people that know how to put boundaries on. But they've tried to
Yeah, it was always
in.
a matter of extending the power of the state. If it was a matter of extending of helping parents to control children, the repercussions of a child's bad behavior should have landed more heavily on the parents. And there would have been something like mandatory parenting classes and things like that, and heavy fines, even imprisonment in certain cases. And then that way you could have helped parents to learn how to impose boundaries on their children. But because that's not the point is to extend the power of the state. It was to take away the power of the parents and to extend the state's power instead.
For what means?
Power and it's so power it's its own value. It's just you can, so you do.
So
and we've got Marxists here who are trying to create their own utopian society.
So
and one of the first things you need to do, we spoke about this before when we spoke about wokeism, about being woke, that in order to create a woke society, you must first destroy the existing society. And that's what they're trying to do. At the same, I mean, it's even what the WEF is trying to do, isn't it? It was stated quite clearly. This professor, whatever his name is, I can't remember. Isn't that just is out there? It's like it's not even been, no one's even arguing. That's the whole idea, right? It's like there's a confluence. Like some people are saying that there's a confluence of objectives, which has married itself into the current situation, the current geopolitical situation, in that the people who believe that 8 billion is too many would like to see something that creates a genocide, something that gets rid of 7 billion people.
I think we're now moving into conspiracy territory now, and there's no evidence for any of this. This is all speculation.
There's plenty of evidence, whether you believe it or not.
Well, it's not plenty of evidence.
Well, there's the speech of the Dr. Frankenstein, whatever his name is. I remember the doctor who spoke at the WEF. He actually spelled it out. That's what I mean, that they're not even hiding it.
What, that he wants to control population?
He wants to control population. He said, we will control something. The exact quote is something like, we will tell them what to do, and they will do it. We will control the population. It's like he didn't hide it. There's no hiding. What's his name now? WEF. I don't know his chap's name. Sorry?
The thing is, the population of the planet is falling. You know this, and we've even discussed it. The Western world population, they're getting into problems because it's falling around the world. Even Russia's populations are falling. And it's we're not at the point where, bringing it back to our topic, we're not at the point yet where testosterone levels have dropped, which is the reason why populations are falling. That's not the reason. There's still plenty of testosterone to go around to increase the population. What's happening here is a cultural thing where people are now not having children across the board. They don't want to. They want to live their lives and be free. But
why would a man want to have children in the West today? Why?
Sorry?
Why would a man want to have children in the West today?
Well,
if his marriage or partnership breaks down, he's in the hawk for 18 years. And he's just going to be working like a slave for somebody else's benefit. So why would any man today? Society has made it so that it doesn't encourage men to have children.
No,
Western society.
It doesn't.
That's what President Putin is trying to do in Russia to undo that. And
incentivize people to
that's
have
the word.
kids.
You know, that's
Yeah.
the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
And that's what he's trying to do over there.
Strangely, China now has, even though they had this policy,
Yeah.
2 children policy in the 70s,
Yeah.
that's had an effect, and now
And
their
then
population
they
is
looked across at what
stagnating.
was happening to Japan, and they went, "Yikes!"
Yeah, exactly. And now their population is now stifled as well. It's
Yeah.
not growing.
They had
The
a whole bunch
next,
of women and a whole bunch of boys and no girls. And it was like such a stupid idea. It's like, hang on a second. How can you have all the boys? Who's going to marry who
I
exactly?
know,
And
I
now they're like,
know.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
Well, see,
oh yeah.
this is government's not doing it right. But
No,
anyway, that's a separate
it
subject.
is. We kind of really meandered during this episode.
We
I'm not really
have,
sure
but we have mentioned about testosterone. I mean, let me give you an promotion about testosterone. You, I think, touched on it at the beginning of the show. Testosterone, the positives of testosterone, it promotes attention, memory, spatial reasoning, and energy. And it also makes you sharper, strangely enough. And obviously, it increases your sex drive, libido, as well as muscle mass. And when testosterone gets too low, you feel more fatigued, you lose sexual interest, you do gain weight, you lose that muscle mass, which is also in addition. And also there's also a link to drop in testosterone also increases to higher levels of depression. So testosterone is actually quite key, and it's alarming that this is dropping across the Western world. But it's easily fixed. Honestly, like you've said, if you did some exercise with some regularity, which is what the doctors are telling everybody anyway, it does increase your testosterone. Did you know smoking increases testosterone? Now, I'm not
All
for
right.
1 minute
No,
telling
no, start
people.
smoking,
No,
guys.
I for 1 minute, I'm not telling people to go and smoke. That's not what I'm saying here. But it does, strangely enough, increases testosterone. But that's not the way to do it. A simpler, healthier way is simply to go and do some exercise, some sporting activity, some jog, something that gets you out of breath. That actually raises testosterone. And by raising your testosterone, then you actually become more efficient at burning fat. Isn't that weird? And so you can turn it around. But I think you hit it on the head. Sedentary behavior, seriously, is not the fact that your testosterone will drop, but it's clearly one of several factors that will contribute to that reduction in testosterone. So it's not that simple. Sugar, too much sugar in the diet, too much processed food, lack of exercise. And
There's one weird thing I want to say, which is a very strange slant. That some men going their own way, some MGTOW, some, not all, some MGTOW actually laud, the idea of low testosterone in men. And they say that men should pursue a low testosterone state because it makes them fancy women less. So that's I just want to put that out. I just wanted to put that out there that you lose your sex drive. We don't find women interesting. It helps you to be a MGTOW monk, which is there are levels of MGTOW.
I know an easier way if you want to take this another step further.
Sorry?
Become a eunuch. That will surely reduce your testosterone.
But that takes away your choices, which MGTOW won't never do. If you become a eunuch, you can't undo it. But if you pursue a lifestyle which doesn't increase your testosterone, then if you decide to change, you can change. But I mean, that's like I said, some MGTOW. I think the vast majority of us are like kind of heavy, dude.
No, that's a bit too much.
Okay,
it's a little bit extreme.
But it's an idea. It's out there, so there we go.
No. I think
better than cigarettes, man. Come on.
Well, I'm not sure about that.
Oh, I'm sure.
No. Okay, I mean, we're getting to the end of the show here, so let's do a summary of what our thoughts are. I mean, you've said you believe culturally that that's caused the problems, but is that the case? Is it?
No, I think
Or is it diet? Or is it a mixture of several things?
Well, look, if you're eating a lot and you've got a sugary diet, like you said, you are going to become heavier, and working out and doing exercise is going to be harder.
Indeed.
So there's that.
Yeah.
So essentially, my essential point is that it is the lack of exercise that leads to all the other things. It's going from the lack of exercise to all the other things. It's not coming from all the other things down into exercise, into a lack of exercise.
Well, I
That's
give
what
you
I'm going to
give you an example. There was, this is actually quite harrowing because it is a friend of mine. He was quite a he did lots of exercise because he was a professional dancer, and he competed all around the UK and was doing very well, very, very fit. But he had a sugar, what's the word? Addiction. I can safely say that word. And we only found this out post his demise, unfortunately. He was young, fit, relatively, if you look at him, but his insides were not good because he'd had so much sugar in his cupboards at home. There was boxes and boxes of sweets and chocolates and things like that. So sugar in particular has a really detrimental effect on the body, really and truly, because there are a number of artificial sugars out there which the body really struggles to deal with, and all these sweeteners and some, I mean, Europe is actually better than the US, mind you, but some of these artificial sugars, there's one in particular, I think, I don't want to get it wrong, but I may do, called glucose fructose syrup. I think that's what it's called, but I could be mistaken. It may not be the right one, but that is an additive which is man-made, even though it sounds as if it isn't. It's something that the body just simply cannot deal with. But it's 5 or 10 times sweeter than natural sugar, but they add this to processed foods to improve its flavor, and your body just does not know how to deal with it. And so that is certainly detrimental to your body, just so that they can give products a shelf life. Because, you know, you're getting transported from A to B, it's got to sit on the shelf, it's got to have preservatives, the flavor's got to improve, and so they make these added ingredients to give it the flavor, so we, the consumer, buy it and think it's okay. But in reality, it's not real food. It's manufactured food, which clearly our bodies are not designed to accept, certainly for long durations, which is what we're doing in the West now. We're eating this stuff several times a week, and it certainly is not good.
Yeah, well, I think, do you want me to do my roundup?
Yeah, please do.
I think the problem in the West is that the culture itself and the feminization of society is the problem, and has led inevitably to this drop in testosterone. And by the way, it's a feedback loop, that the more feminized the society is, the more the men are feminized, the less testosterone they have, the more the society becomes feminized. And I think we discussed this before, that I believe that this happens regularly to civilizations, and it's the end of civilization. So I really believe that this is the end. And I believe it's happened before, and it'll happen again. That at some point, women become liberated, and their liberation brings with it a drop in the testosterone of the male population. Society becomes decadent and decayed, and that's the end of that civilization. That's my firm belief.
Okay. I would like to discuss that at length, where you get your evidence for that, but
You
we
already
haven't.
have. You just forgot.
But unfortunately, we have reached the end of the show for another week.
Ah.